I had heard of romance scams, but it's not something working violent crime matters that you're exposed to every day.
Tisha Raines sent a significant amount of money to a person and she thought they were going to have a romantic relationship.
She thought, I met the man of my dreams and we're gonna be happy. But that's not what ended up happening.
This scam artist pushed her over the edge.
The moment Tisha Dawn Raines used her phone to solicit for a hitman, she's right on that line of having committed a crime.
When we are so severely traumatized, we have varying reactions, many of which we almost have no control over.
There is potentially a victim here. Somebody could wind up dead. Newcastle is a small town here in Indiana. If you don't know everybody else there, you're not more than 1 or 2 degrees removed from somebody who knows everybody there.
It was an industrial town for much of the 20th century. The economy, and to some degree the city, dominated by a large Chrysler plant that was there. At one point it employed more than 6,000 people. As the auto industry went through changes, the production there declined and it closed in 2009. As those jobs have gone away and have been replaced largely by lower paying jobs, we have the descendants of these people who worked in the auto plants leading, frankly, tougher lives.
Tisha Raines, having grown up in that area, was not unknown to law enforcement. Her entire life has just been a series of poor decisions because she just doesn't know how to do the right thing. My very first partner had a great expression, and it's stuck with me to this day, 21 years later. He said, "Some people just can't fly straight."
Her criminal history was limited to things along the lines of drunk driving until she was arrested for dealing narcotic medications there in Henry County.
Tisha was in and out of the jail system. She was known mostly for drugs.
Methamphetamine, unfortunately, is a drug of choice of users throughout the Southern District of Indiana, and certainly in a lot of these little rural counties, it's a big deal. Making the meth in the backyard thing in rural Indiana is really not a thing anymore. It's this trafficking of meth coming from across the border, and it is very prevalent. It's horrible, and it makes people do horrible things.
She got out of jail, must have hopped online, and she met somebody named Andrew. And Andrew charmed her. She was just looking for love like everyone else. She had obviously a troubled past, and she just wanted a better life. So she thought, I met the man of my dreams. He's, overseas, he's gonna be deployed, and we're gonna be happy, but that's not what ended up happening. Andrew actually ended up asking her for $1,500. Tisha, she didn't have a lot of money. So when she gave him the $1,500, she really thought it was going to bring her love. As soon as she gave him the money, he stopped talking to her. She knew she had been scammed.
I had heard of romance scams, but it's not something working violent crime matters that you're exposed to every day. The people who perpetrate romance scams are very keenly aware of how to short-circuit people's good judgment and how to blow past any red flags that people might see in any particular situations.
They start a relationship with somebody online. They earn your trust. They play on your feelings, on your emotions, and then they drop the money bomb. They need money so they can come see you. They need money so they can furnish the house that you guys are gonna buy together. I mean, some of these go very, very deep into where they're picking out houses and all this online, but none of it is real. In 2023 alone, there was $1.14 billion worth just in romance scams.
If Tisha Dawn Raines had come to us and said, hey, I've been scammed out of money by somebody, that's something that we might have taken an interest in and classified her as a victim in the matter.
Where it takes a turn is she decided that she was gonna take the law into her own hands. Instead of maybe filing a complaint or trying to find where this Andrew actually was, she decided she was going to hire a hitman, pay him $5,000, and she was going to kill Andrew.
This case came to us back in the spring of 2018. We have relationships with a lot of the local police departments, and information had come to a sheriff's department just east of here, a couple of counties over. A deputy had spoken with an individual. That individual told the deputy that he knew of somebody who was soliciting for a hitman to commit a murder for hire. I had investigated a murder for hire case a couple of years before this, which had come to a successful resolution. So my supervisor thought that I'd be the perfect person to go to for a brand new murder for hire case. It's not uncommon, but it is a rarity for any law enforcement agency to be involved in an investigation before somebody gets hurt.
It's unclear to me to this day why she decided to take that very weighty, important, and scary step of hiring somebody to try to kill somebody.
The fact that a scam is what kicked this off and led Tisha Dawn Raines to solicit for a hitman is something that was unusual.
I don't know if there was something that this fraudster or scam artist said to her that pushed her over the edge, but clearly one morning she was willing to tell our cooperating witness that she wanted to have somebody killed for $5,000 she was willing to pay because this person had stolen from her. And so that's what started this investigative process.
Why would someone who's a victim of a romance scam want to reach out and harm someone else? When we are so severely traumatized, we have varying reactions, many of which we almost have no control over. I'm no psychologist, but anyone can understand that when you are so emotionally invested in something and then are triggered by hurt and pain, that some people cannot control how they react or respond.
When you start messing with people's feelings and emotions, you are in a whole nother lane, because money, yes, like obviously there's attachment to money, but once you actually make a connection with somebody like that, and they think that you are X, Y, and Z, and you're coming and you love me and you're saying all the right things, and Lord knows what he was promising her, to find out that there was no relationship to be had. I'm sure she was very upset. They knew they had to react to Tisha very quickly because they didn't know who else she had been reaching out to for this hit. So they knew if they couldn't beat someone else to the punch, like this could actually happen.
How do we, first of all, make sure that this is legit? Is this somebody who's really looking to hire somebody to kill somebody? We want to look into it, but if there's something there, what evidence do we need to satisfy the three essential elements? The use of a facility of interstate commerce, that intent to kill somebody, and some sort of an agreement to pay for that killing. Those are the three essential elements. So as we investigate this case, how are we going to develop evidence in those three elements?
Will and I discussed this. We had the interstate communications half of the equation. Now we needed the other half of the equation, and that is the exchange of something of value for the solicitation for the murder.
One of the things we knew we had to do was get an undercover agent involved in this. What is a murder for hire case? Under federal law, it's against the law for somebody to use or cause someone else to use what's called a facility of interstate commerce. Kind of technical, but in this case, a cell phone or something like that, with the intent to have a murder committed in exchange for a payment or a promise to pay something of pecuniary value. That could be cash, that could be something that's obviously of value to most of us, gold, gems.
One of the first things I did was I called our cooperating witness and I confirmed the information from the sheriff's department with him over the phone. But then I arranged to meet him in person. I don't like, and I don't think anybody likes, just to take something over the phone and then run with it. You want to meet with somebody, you want to sit across from them, you want to get a real sense of who they are and the information that they're bringing to the table. He corroborated everything he had told me over the phone. I saw the text messages between him and Tisha Dawn Rains where she's soliciting for a hitman. And based on that, went back to the office and sat down with my partner and my supervisor, and I said, here's what I'd like to do. I would like to have the cooperating witness introduce an undercover agent to Tisha Dawn Rains, the undercover agent posing as a hitman, saying for the cooperating witness to say, hey Tish, here's the guy I've got to do, what it is you want him to do, and you guys need to talk about it now and come to some agreement. So that's exactly what we did. The next step in that was identifying who we wanted to be the undercover agent on this case. I don't think this is going to be a surprise to anybody. The FBI has agents who will sometimes operate in an undercover capacity. Being an undercover agent is something that you volunteer for in the Bureau. It's not something the Bureau can make you do. Every FBI agent serves the needs of the Bureau. There are a handful of things, though, the Bureau will not force you to do. And one of those things is work undercover matters. So it takes a certain mindset to want to sign up for something like that. I wanted to identify who I thought would be the perfect undercover agent for something like this. We need somebody who looks the part, who can play the part, who can talk the talk and walk the walk. With our undercover coordinator, we identified the perfect undercover agent for this matter. Undercover agents have the leeway to accept or reject a request to pose as an undercover. Given the circumstances, they might say, you know what, that's not something I'm comfortable doing. We don't force undercover agents to do undercover stuff if they're not comfortable with it. The agent we approached to be the undercover in this matter, he was on board right from the get-go, and he said, it's something, yeah, I can get this done.
This is always going to be a dangerous situation for an FBI agent and undercover to place himself or herself in. I will say that they are the trained experts at this, and when the case agent, in this case Agent Secor, and I decide that this is how we're going to follow up and investigate this case, I put a lot of trust in them, and it's well-deserved, I think, that they will undertake whatever security and safety protocols they have to do to make sure that the agents are safe, to make sure that the target of the investigation is safe, and of course anybody else.
So we arranged for that undercover to meet with Tisha out in a park in Newcastle, Indiana. They had a face-to-face meeting where they discussed the circumstances of the murder for hire. We had a surveillance team in place to make sure that everybody stays safe. We set up that undercover meeting. Right from the get-go, she was on board and letting our undercover know that she wanted this gentleman killed. During the discussions with the undercover agent about how payment was going to be made, she said money was a little tight for her right now, but she could get what she called go for him. And go was street slang for methamphetamine. And so they negotiated basically a down payment on the hit in methamphetamine. The undercover mentions something like, oh, is this all there is? And she says, well, I can go and get more. And she actually leaves the undercover meeting and goes directly to a local hotel there in Newcastle and comes back with another baggie of meth. during that meeting with the undercover that she was hoping the original baggie of meth that she gave him, she was hoping to flip that and make a little extra money on it. So she's even out there like, here's a baggie of meth that I can pay you in. If I don't give it to you, I may go out and try to flip that into even more money than I paid for it. So this is somebody who is, familiar with how illegalities work in this world. I've been doing this job long enough to know that people don't often think rationally. So the notion that she had been scammed out of $1,200 but was willing to pay $5,000 to have an individual killed, like monetarily, that makes absolutely no sense. But from a vengeance standpoint, from the emotional end of things, it went to show how invested she was in having this individual killed.
Clearly, Tisha has been a victim of drug abuse and also a victim of a con artist who took her money and led her to believe that romance was coming when it was not. And I'm sure that was, especially after spending a number of years in prison, that had to be a major disappointment for her. And she didn't respond in the right way.
I think this should be eye-opening to people who are doing these kinds of things, because you never know how they're going to turn out. People all react in different ways, and she had murder on the brain.
As soon as the meeting was over and the hitman left the undercover meeting, we did a debrief with our undercover agent. We took from him the 2 baggies of meth that had been put down as a down payment. We immediately sent that off to be tested, and it came back as meth.
As far as I'm concerned as a prosecutor, the 3 elements have already been met as of now. As of now, we've got the use of a cell phone, the intent to kill, and also now the payment or promise to pay something of pecuniary value.
During the undercover meeting between Miss Raines and our undercover agent, Miss Raines showed our undercover agent a photo of the individual she believed had scammed her out of $1,200. It was a picture of Brandon Burleson in his Navy BDUs with his name on his lapel very clear. So if she were soliciting another hitman, somebody who wasn't an undercover FBI agent, they had clear identifiers who this person was, what branch of the military he was in, and it probably wouldn't take a whole lot of effort to figure out where that person is and go out and have that person murdered.
Well, because she does have a past history of drug use, and the fact that she kept meeting up with them to give them more money, like at least 3 times, that they knew she was serious. And the fact that now they had to find out who this Andrew was, because also he's in the military, so he's in the Navy. So you have a respected person whose life is on the line. So there are so many moving parts in this. But I think the fact that an undercover was actually playing the role, they were able to really see the case for what it was.
We could have had her arrested relatively quickly after that. But one of our biggest concerns was we had information that our undercover agent might not be the only person she was talking to have the hit done. So we wanted to make sure that we cut off any other attempts that she might be making to have Brandon Burleson out in California murdered.
It's possible that somebody else is on the hunt. Besides our fake hitman, there's a real one out there. That's the worst possible case. And so the FBI had to track down who this person was because we need to warn them.
So one of the first things we did was I confirmed that Brandon Burleson was active duty military. I confirmed his duty station. I placed a call to Brandon Burleson, told him who I was on the phone. Oftentimes people might get telephone calls from people saying they're with the FBI. We are always of the mindset you should always confirm that the person who's calling you is indeed from the FBI. I gave him our main contact number to give me a call back to confirm that I am indeed an FBI agent and to give me a call back and I can share some details with him. And that's when I let them know, hey, here's what's going on. I'd like to send a couple of agents out to talk with you and get some more information from you directly.
So he was approached and made aware that this whole thing was going on. And he told the agent who interviewed him in California, look, this happens to me all the time. This is like hundreds of times that my image has been used in these scams. Because he's all over the place on social media.
Identity theft is a very common crime, and frankly, it does not seem that sensational. And I assume it was a shock for this individual to determine not only did someone take his identity, but he was actually put in a place where he very easily could have been killed as a result of that.
The person she believes scammed her was not who scammed her. That person was a victim of online identity theft, and which was part of something that we call a romance scam.
Further investigation by the FBI revealed that he was a very real person. The person in the picture, Brandon Burleson, was a chief petty officer in the United States Navy on active duty as a recruiter out in California. In his job as a recruiter, he has to have a social media presence that's pretty big. And so his picture's all over the place out there. And somebody, we believe, found his picture and sent that picture to Ms. Raines and conned her into, sending some amount of money.
He had received about 100 emails from other women who were really pissed off that he took their money, but he has no idea who any of these people are. He hasn't talked to any of them. None of them looked familiar. He didn't know any of this was happening until all of a sudden there was a hit on his life. That's gotta be scary, because that's just taking this to a whole new level. Now it's not just, okay, you stole my money, but now it's turning into, I'm gonna kill you. And he had nothing to do with it.
I cut a lead out to our Los Angeles field office to have Brandon Burleson interviewed face-to-face by a couple of FBI agents. And as part of that, because Brandon Burleson is considered a victim in this case, we also had contact made with Mr. Burleson by what's called a victim specialist, just to let him know. In this case, Mr. Burleson was very cooperative with us, even being surprised by the fact that somebody might be soliciting to have you murdered. He was very cooperative right from the get-go, but we still reach out with a victim specialist to let him know that there are victim services available to him should he need them. He told me over the phone that his photos had been used by scammers to scam women out of money. He referred to them as soft heart scams. We in the FBI would call them romance scams. His name and his likeness had been used to scam people out of money. He had been contacted by hundreds of women saying that he had scammed them out of money, and he had to explain to them that that was not him who was sending them messages. That was somebody who cut and pasted his picture off the internet and used them in fake dating profiles and fake Facebook pages to scam them out of money. When I spoke with him, he was surprised, however, that one of these scams had escalated to murder for hire.
I'll never ask you for money. I'm never gonna ask you for inappropriate pictures or send you inappropriate pictures. This account is strictly professional. Make you laugh every now and then, act a goofball, but I'm not gonna ask you for money.
I can't imagine that she was terribly surprised to have this unfold the way it did. I mean, she clearly was a person who took risk. She sent a significant amount of money to a person she did not know, had no idea at all who that person was, and she thought they were going to have a romantic relationship.
Everyone watching this needs to know that it is emotionally damaging when you have your identity stolen and used to defraud other people. Because there's misplaced blame, as we all know, but also the fact that Think about today's day and age. It's a digital world that we live in. So that means our information is used to access dozens, if not 100 different accounts. There's financial accounts, credit card accounts, bank accounts, emails. Most people have more than one email in today's day and age, especially younger people. You've got social media accounts, there's apps, there's phone. It's just so pervasive in how much we use the digital world. So imagine if your personal information is stolen and now you're at risk of identity theft or impersonation, then it puts most of those things in some measure at risk, as well as yourself, because somebody's going to think that you're a fraud. You've got different types of images stolen for different purposes. So yes, it's almost cliche to say that a very handsome man, whether he's in his 60s or whether he's in his 20s, or a beautiful woman, whether she's in her 30s or in her 50s. I mean, yes, it is cliche. They are stolen all the time and misused by cybercriminals to represent themselves as this person. And anyone online who has a well-known internet presence is at risk.
They use people in the military often because they are deployed, because it's harder for them to kind of be found out. Because, I mean, they're away, they can't talk to you all the time. So if they happen to be deployed or they're doing this or they're in a secret mission, obviously you're not gonna have the casual contact like you would with somebody who is just a civilian. So I think that number one, it's because it shows that they're in great honor. I mean, you're serving your country. Of course, you're gonna wanna believe them. Then the fact that you don't have constant communication with them is kind of normal because of what they do. And because at some point in time, these soldiers and people in the Navy, Army, all of it, they have to come home. So now they have a reason why they need the money. So I think it kind of makes them an easy target.
Cybercriminals, in order to prove who they are, they will send documentation or they will send IDs to the people they're trying to victimize. And those IDs are just everyday run-of-the-mill people that they pull off the web. There are thousands of fake websites on the internet, completely fake, completely fabricated. And many of them have the team, you know, the CEO of the company, the warehouse workers, and some of those are stock images, absolutely. But many of those are images that are stolen from other websites. And sometimes the criminals are clever enough that they actually will match what somebody's history is and what their business is or their trade. So for instance, a lawyer, a real lawyer, they'll take that image, put it on a fake website, and all the credentials, I've seen this, are identical to the real person, but with a different name.
Unfortunately, identity theft is a huge issue. And you have to report it so it's on file. That way, say if they have a driver's license with your picture and all that on it, you're not being accused of the things that this person is doing on your behalf. And sometimes they can find the people, sometimes they can't. A lot of times these perpetrators are in other countries, and that makes them a lot harder to catch and to find, because everything that they tell you is a lie. Their location's a lie, their occupation is a lie. So you really have nothing to go off of other than what these people are telling you.
How dangerous it can be for the people who have their IDs stolen, it's literally across the spectrum. So yes, you can imagine like a made-for-TV movie, you know, where someone is actually stalked by a victim, found and killed. Have there been those circumstances? Yes. They're incredibly rare, thankfully, and they're horrible. But then there's the complete opposite end of the spectrum where I've had people say, well, thank you very much. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm not worried about it. You know, it's not my fault. It's not my problem. Honestly, most people land in the middle. And for that, I mean that there are people that they're empathetic and they don't like hearing that their images have been used to hurt other people. They're concerned about their own well-being, and so they'll notify friends and family. They'll put some warning up. They'll maybe change their practices a little bit. But it varies tremendously depending on the person you're speaking with.
In speaking with him, I don't get the sense that he's somebody who shies away from a fight. So I don't think he was scared. He was more surprised that one of these scams had escalated to murder for hire. We wanted to control the situation. Our undercover agent texted Miss Raines. He had let her know about a week before that he had, quote, found the package and that it was going to get done. We wanted to make it look like he had already been murdered, and so if she was soliciting other people to have him murdered, that she would be able to call that off, or nobody would be out there looking for Mr. Burleson to actually murder him. So we wanted to cut things off and make it look like that her solicitation for the murder had come to an end.
He agreed to cooperate and help us make staged photos.
We were able to make it look like Mr. Burleson had indeed been murdered. Our undercover agent texted those pictures to Miss Raines. She responded with, "I don't know who that is," and that was, I believe, the last substantive contact that our undercover had with Miss Raines.
You know, I think that was a statement to try to hide her complicity in the potential death of somebody. You know, it wasn't really dead, of course, but that was the whole purpose, just was to see what she would say, knowing that her plan had been successfully implemented.
To actually have the paint put on and to look like you've been shot and you got to lay on the ground, like, that is just a whole nother level.
He wanted to sort of take this role in helping educate others so that they could be alert to this type of scam.
I don't think anybody in this world jumps from nothing to murder for hire. Whenever you look at someone's criminal background, there's usually an escalation starting relatively early in their life, and Miss Raines was no exception. Relatively minor things early, in her adult life, slowly escalating until we get to dealing narcotics, and then a year after she gets out of prison, soliciting murder for hire. We had everything we needed to have. Now I just need to go out and have her arrested. We attempted to arrest Miss Raines at her house. She was not there. We figured after that she might be at work. We knew where she worked. She worked at an auto parts supplier out in Newcastle, Indiana. The arrest team moved there, and we were able to locate her at her place of employment and placed her under arrest. When we first started interviewing Miss Raines, we asked her where her cell phone was. We were interested in getting that phone for evidentiary reasons. She tried telling us that her phone had been waterlogged the night before, so this is the part of the interview where we're confronting her about that and expressing our skepticism as to the story she's telling us.
Any record of that call would be on your phone that's now waterlogged.
Yeah.
Yeah. Physically, where is that phone?
No, I threw it away last night.
Did you?
Yeah, I had to.
Why'd you have to?
Because it's no good. It won't even turn on. It won't do nothing.
Okay.
I even stuck it in rice and everything.
So you didn't throw it away last night?
Well, early this morning.
Okay. We'll talk about that a little more
Okay.
here in a minute.
I'm not. Hey.
It's interesting when you confront people with inconsistencies in what they're telling you, and the story keeps changing. So she knew our undercover as T. She was introduced to him using the nickname T, and she tries telling us that she told T no, that she did not want this done, and that she was emphatic about it. So that's what where I'm talking with her about that here.
So T says, I can take care of that for you. What did you understand that to mean?
Well, I thought it was just pretty much a joke.
Okay, but when you said no,
No, I said no.
okay, but what did you think you were saying no to?
Hurt me.
Hurting him in
Yeah.
some way? Okay. And you said no, that
No,
does not need to
absolutely
happen.
not.
Okay, Tisha,
Yes.
I think your phone is here somewhere, and I think you don't want to tell us your phone's here somewhere.
Okay, I don't understand what's going on now.
Okay, I'm getting to that. Is your phone here, Tisha?
No, it's not.
Where is it?
It's in the garbage.
Tisha, I think your phone's inside somewhere. I think you got rid of it. I think you dumped it in the toilet in the bathroom that they found you in. I think you were hiding in there. I
was just in the bathroom.
I think your mom or your son called you and said we were looking for you.
Yeah, and I don't know why.
Okay. But I think they called you on your phone.
Okay.
Did they?
Yes.
Okay, where is your phone?
It's in there.
In there where?
I got it hid.
Okay. Why'd you lie to me?
Because I'm freaking out.
Okay.
We eventually got her to admit that her phone was inside, so we had somebody go in and pull it out for us.
Well, so tell me about T. So after T says, hey, I can take care of that for you, and you're like, no.
Yeah, I was like, no, hell no.
Okay. Do you have any discussions with T about it after that?
Yeah, he sent me a picture.
What kind of picture did he send you?
Somebody's head blowed off.
Okay. And whose head was blown off?
I don't know.
Tisha, I know that you gave T something, and I know that you got out of T's car, got into your car, which was a white Toyota, drove to the Raintree Inn, and brought something else back for T. Does this sound familiar? Okay, so what did you give T?
I got him meth.
Okay. How much did you give him? How much meth?
It was like an 8-ball.
Okay.
So she gave him an 8-ball, which is 1/8 of an ounce, which the price of 1/8 of an ounce of methamphetamine can vary from anywhere from $100 to $200. She at first thought that Brandon Burleson's name was Andrew. She was calling him Andrew. She thought Andrew was his middle name that he went by, though she knew him by Brandon and by Andrew, so she would often call him Andrew as well. Here's where we showed her the picture of Mr. Burleson that we had staged as if he had been murdered.
What's this?
I don't know what that is, and
What is that?
I don't know who it is. I got that in my thing.
When you say you got that in your thing, what do you mean?
I got that picture sent to me
By whom?
by T.
Why did T send you this picture?
And I don't know. And I said, I don't know who that is. That's exactly what I said to him. I don't know who that is. Please. And I freaked out when I seen it.
Why'd you freak out?
Because I thought it was Andrew, and I looked at it and I sent it to him.
So you thought it was Andrew?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So that was me confronting her with that picture. And you can't see it, obviously, because it's audio, but if that interview had been video recorded, you would see her just trying to avert her eyes and just not have anything to do with that picture. And then the last clip is negotiating the amount of meth for the hit.
T then says, I'm back next week. Let's meet to talk. My people liked your stuff. We can talk and figure it out. What's he referring to when he says stuff?
How about that?
The meth. And then you said, well, like I said, my money is not good, but the stuff is better, but don't have the money for it. He says, we'll talk. You around next week. To which you say, what did you say? You said, right on.
There's no reluctance here on her part. She's negotiating paying for this hit in any way that she can, and given her circumstances and her background, the way she was going to pay for this was to continue to pay in meth. When I told her that T was an undercover agent, she deflated, physically deflated. So not a whole lot of audio there, but physically you could see that she knew the game was over. That case resolved itself fairly quickly as far as federal cases are concerned.
We charged Tisha with not only the violation of the murder for hire statute, but also for the distribution of the methamphetamine. Also a federal crime, of course. But as part of our plea agreement in this case, the United States agreed to dismiss the meth counts if she would plead guilty to the murder for hire. And that's how the case was resolved. Not a trial, but a guilty plea.
A little bit after that, she was sentenced to almost 10 years in federal prison. Her entire life has just been a series of poor decisions because she just doesn't know how to do the right thing.
In cases like Ms. Raines, I'm sure the communications were probably by text message or email from this scam artist. Now, with AI, people can fake the voice of somebody that they actually know, a loved one. Oh my gosh, Grandma, I'm stuck in Mexico and I need money for bail. And they can do this. And that's a much harder question. But again, if these crimes, these actions are reported to law enforcement as early as possible, that's probably your best bet. But even better than that, let's just hope that you don't become a victim to begin with by being sensible about what information you put out there. It can sometimes lead to a plot to kill somebody. So these are things that matter a lot to people, not just the victims of these crimes, but it should matter to everybody that uses a computer or uses social media or the internet or anything like that. But they should know that we're doing our very best to fight it.
I do have videos about the scammers on my page. There's really nothing I can do. I feel no obligation or responsibility for it whatsoever. Just use your common sense. Life will be a lot easier for you.
You kind of control how much presence you have on social media. You know, you can put yourself all over on social media. You can put all kinds of facts about yourself on social media. And yes, even though you would become an unwitting victim, in a sense, you're making yourself open to that if you're not careful about how you do that.
What can people do to better protect themselves against ID theft, to protect their information, their personal information online? There is a long list of things that people can do. And let's make it crystal clear. Exiting from the internet, divorcing yourself from the use of the internet is just not going to happen. Because, first of all, that's not the way life is going. It is a digital world. We're in it. So the question, how can you live in that digital world more safely?
It is almost depressing how prevalent these scams are and how a lot of people who might not have a whole lot of money to begin with are being scammed out of whatever little money they have left. The bad guys know how to play on people's emotions, and for them, oftentimes it's like shooting fish in a barrel.